A lot of Australian celebrations going on down here. There's two pockets of supporters, and I'm sure you recognise them. There's some in olive green shirts, and then some in the gold Australian shirts. So they're all sitting together, but there's some tremendous cheering and celebrating going on because the entire Australian squad and the management and the coaching staff and so on are all just out in front of me here, including Josh Hazlewood. You come and speak to me, Josh. You are Jonathan Agnew, nice to meet you. I've been number 11 myself. How was it?
It was a long hour, yeah. No, it was amazing. Just sitting at the back of the room there watching, and a long hour.
Did you move, or did you just stay in the same seat, or standing up in the same place all the way through?
Everyone was pretty similar in their same spots, and then jumping up every over to go to the bathroom. So, amazing game.
55 they put on. I mean, there must have been a thought at that stage that probably you wouldn't win it.
Yeah, I think when Uzi and Kears probably got out, that sort of, left with the last 3 wickets and the last 2 wickets, and probably thought it was a little bit out of reach. But Paddy's a class batter, and we know we can hang around with him. So outstanding effort.
Yeah, and the support here. Look at them. That must help you.
Yeah, there's always a few tour groups here and a few extras floating around. Bit of family and. It's just an amazing game of cricket.
Last question, it's obvious, but what does this win mean to you, to go 1 up with 4 to go?
Yeah, it's obviously still a long series ahead, but it's a big swing. It feels like the first game's always hugely important, and it's good to be on the right result of it.
I can see your relief. Thank you, Josh, for talking to us. There they are, Josh Hazlewood. That's nice. One very relieved man to be down there as number 11. Wow, that's quite a feeling. It's nice to hear from him. Well, I think Jimmy Anderson's coming towards us. We can have a chat with him, I think. It's going to be one of those days where we just catch up then. It'll be, well, what a game.
It was all right, wasn't it? Amazing to be a part of that. We've had 5 really good days. Obviously, we're gutted not to get over the line and win the game, but I think, in a few days' time, over the next few days, when we sit down and look at what we've done this week, I think we can be really proud as a group. We've tried to dominate the game from ball one. That declaration on day one, I thought was really positive, and we fought on what was a really placid pitch. We've done some great stuff, as I said. Credit to Australia, though, today they were just too good for us.
I think you should have won it.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, there'll be missed chances, and 55, the last but one pair put together.
Yeah, of course. We'll look back, and there's areas we can improve for sure. There always is in games like this, and in tight games, I suppose those sorts of chances do get put under the spotlight a little bit more. So we'll go away. As I said, we'll let it soak in for a few days, get over the disappointment of losing the game, but obviously look at the positives. We've played some great cricket. We've had 5. I think they've been pretty much sold out,
yes.
And everyone's gone home happy each day. And I think all the fans, both Australian and English fans today, can go home saying they've seen one of the great Test matches. And we're proud to be a part of that. But obviously we want to get the win. As I said, we'll go away, try and work on some stuff, and come back at Lord's and playing some more positive cricket.
Yeah, and I guess you must believe that you can beat Australia on the back of this.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we think we can beat anyone if we play at our best, and that's what we'll try and do. We'll try and as I said, regroup after this. But there's so many positives, I think, from this week that we can be really proud of. Obviously, we'll try and iron out the little areas that we need to. But as I said, we think we can beat anyone if we play our best for 5 days.
Well, it was a great watch, Jimmy. Thank you. Go and get your feet up. I'm sure you'll be pretty exhausted. The England captain, I saw a moment there. Oh, he's over there. I think he's having a selfie. So I'll wait for him, because I think we can get Ben Stokes fairly quickly. It's not bad that he's been out there all day. I was suggesting, Ben, I reckon you must be pretty frazzled after that. How do you feel? What a game!
Unbelievable game. That's why you play, isn't it?
Yeah, it is why you play. But are you kind of a bit?
Yeah, I reckon. Obviously, it's been 10 minutes, but I think in terms of everything that we've spoken about consistently for a long period of time, literally came down to the end of today. The whole crowd was going, everyone was on the edge of their seat, not knowing which way it was going to go. And, as I've always said, we're not a results-driven team. We think about more than that. Obviously, we're absolutely devastated that we've lost. the lads are up there just in absolute pieces, especially Robbo and Brody, who put in an unbelievable shift there. But if that's not attracting people to this game that we love and have, committed so much of our time towards, and I don't know what will.
You can hear it. I mean, the Australians as well, loving that. 55 to win. Obviously, that eighth pair comes together. What are you thinking at that stage?
Yeah, I mean, you never ever think that you've won a game until you've won it. And it was still massively in the balance there. It was a very hard wicket to sort of get genuine wickets on. You had to sort of come up with, different ideas constantly when the batters sort of felt like they were in sort of a comfortable position. You sort of had to keep changing things, and the amount of times it worked throughout the whole time that we bowled in the first innings and this innings as well. And then it just comes down to small margins at the end, a few chances sort of go our way, a couple sort of, drop catch as well. Thought I had it, but fortunately I did have it, but it just popped out. Just a couple just falling short of Pope and stuff like that. But you can't look back on things that have happened, and unfortunately we're here as the losers this game, and Australia have won, but we've got 4 more to go.
Yeah. The declaration sparked some debate, not amongst those of us who played in the 1980s in the Championship cricket when you did all that sort of thing. Do you look back at that now and think, 40 runs, or it was just to try and get a couple of wickets?
Yeah, I've seen that as a time to pounce. I stayed up in the dressing rooms after that day. Actually, was that if that was sort of any other team and we were in that position, that's what we would have looked to do. And the thing that I said to myself was, I'm not going to change the way that I've gone about my cricket with this team over the last year because it's the Ashes. And who knows? We could have got another 40 runs. Joe could have got out, and then Jimmy could have got out the next ball. So we're not a team who goes on, and I'm not a captain who goes on what ifs.
And just last thought, I mean, you'll take a lot of positive thoughts away from this. Australia are beatable.
Yeah, definitely. I thought we were sort of in control of most of the game, and we managed to produce a result, and that's all we want to try and do. Obviously we want to come out on top more than we don't, but if we're going to be involved in games like that more than not, and we end up sort of being on the losing end, it's obviously devastating. I'm pretty sort of beat up emotionally at the moment, but that's sport. It's great. It's an emotional roller coaster, especially when you get down to the end of the day 5.
Well, I really appreciate you talking to us. Thank you, Ben.
Cheers,
well, that was great entertainment for 5 days. Ben Stokes, England's captain, who, you come off the field after all that, and it's speaking live on the radio. It's a few minutes later. I think he's pretty frazzled.
Yeah, he will be. He won't admit it, but tonight in his bed, he'll be going over every tactical manoeuvre. And let's be honest, he made some brilliant tactical manoeuvres throughout the whole match. To bowl Joe Root, not take the second new ball, and he got the wicket of Alex Carey. I don't know of any other captain in the ground that wouldn't have just gone straight to Broad and Anderson with that second new ball. He kept Joe Root on. I thought he spoke brilliantly there. Yeah. Just come out of a hotbed of being out in the middle, and he comes straight from the dressing room and speaks with so much clarity. He'll be hurting. It's the nature of an Ashes series. Yes, it's about the way that England play, and yes, of course, they're trying to get more people involved, more listeners, more people interested in Test cricket. They have done that. They have done that.
He's just wrapped an arm around Pat Cummins, actually, because he's emerged from the Australian dressing room. I think he must be also pretty... Go on, Jason, I haven't seen you since. How about that? I mean, 55 those last 2 put on.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. That was just an immense effort from both those players. They took some calculated risks. I remember being in the comms box thinking, well, we're going to shut up shop now and just defend and survive.
They could have done.
They absolutely could have done, but they took the positive option, looked to put the pressure back on Ben Stokes and the England bowlers, and look, that's going to go down one for the ages, that's for sure.
Yeah. Cookie, you've been there and done it as well. They just walked off and are looking at Ben Stokes there. I wonder what is going through his mind. He's got to go through the presentations now and so on. But I guess your head is just kind of swirling, isn't it, in that situation?
Yeah, you'd probably be a bit numb because you've been thinking so much out there for such a long period of time. Look, it was... I genuinely feel there's an opportunity that England have lost here. That they haven't taken. It's not going to change England. Whether they win or lose, they're going to play. They were going to win. They were going to play exactly the same way at Lord's. So actually, it'll probably affect them less than we think. Apart from just how nice it is to go 1-0 up in a series and how important it is. So, what it will do for Australia will reinforce that actually this tactic of hanging back against England has worked. Because you have to say they've got the result, and so it has worked. I'm a little bit disappointed about that because I think if these two sides decide to go match fire with fire, we would get it'd be like 2005 series but on steroids. It would be just the most incredible cricket, and as soon as Australia then took the positive option and attacked England, that's when they won that game. Pat Cummins won that game for them there because he switched, whether it was just because I can't win this game, so there's a bit of hope, I've got to go down fighting, because actually all day they didn't grab that win. They didn't grab the win, but he did it. He grabbed the win at the end, and I wonder whether they will stick to that tactic or they'll change it.
What do you think?
No, I'm intrigued with what happens at Lord's. There's a couple of things. I think Pat Cummins will be honest and open with his team and talk about the tactical side of bowling on day one. They didn't get the tactics right on day one because they allowed England too many singles, particularly in that first session. I don't think we'll see that again. I think they'll squeeze England a little bit more so and try and force the big shots early and then maybe spread the field when a batter or two gets in. Ben Stokes won't declare again.
No.
He won't declare again because those 30, 40 runs, if you'd have asked Ben Stokes this morning, would you have liked Joe to get another 30 on that day one? You've now got him in the bank, of course. But it's the way that he plays. He says he doesn't deal with what ifs as a captain. I love that mindset. But I will guarantee at Lord's, if they bat first and they're 393 for 8 with 20 minutes to go, I would guarantee that they'll carry on batting.
He will declare.
No, not with Joe Root 118. No, he will not.
He will declare because he'll be like, that's what I did last time, so I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
But England, if you're looking at England, they've how many opportunities they didn't take in the field in particular has cost them the game.
Yeah. What do you think Australia will take away from this, apart from obviously the big fillip of being 1-0 up? But do you agree with Michael that there are areas of the game that they will change?
Yeah, without a doubt. They'll reflect, they'll review, they'll reflect on things that happened in the game. I know Pat Cummins will reflect on day one, as Michael Vaughan mentioned. Could he have been more proactive? Could he have done things differently? And I'm with Michael. I think there'll be a slight tweak. They understand that this England side are going to go hard. They've had a lot of defensive fielders. I think you might just see maybe one of those defensive fielders come up into either a run-saving or a wicket-taking option.
Yeah. And I mean, Johnny Bairstow wicket-keeping situation, we've talked a bit about that, haven't we? And we talked about the chances that were missed. It's horrible to point fingers, but because of the sort of debate about whether he should be picked or not, it's inevitable that will be talked about.
Yeah, it's Ashes cricket, Aggers. It's brutal for the reason being that there's more interest, there's more column inches, and I'll guarantee over the next few days there'll be many journalists writing about Ben Foakes, Johnny Bairstow's position. On these flat wickets, we've been saying all week, when you create opportunities, when you look at 2 or 3 of Johnny's drops, they're not even 50-50 chances, they're 95% chances that he should be taking. England won't change it. I don't think they'll make any changes. They'll try and get the bowlers fit and fresh again for Lord's. They might look at someone like Mark Woods who had a bit of pace. Yeah. But let's be honest, the bowling attack that they had this week on this featherbed did a good enough job to win the game. They just weren't good enough to take the chances at the right time.
It was interesting that he didn't turn to Jimmy Anderson there when it really mattered at the end.
Well, I can only imagine those watching and listening when that second new ball was due. You've got the two greatest with the due ball, Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, ready to go with Australia, needing 50, 40-odd 50, and he turns to Joe Root, it worked. And then all of a sudden Pat Cummins, and Cookie's absolutely right, Cummins suddenly went, I'm taking this. And he hit those 2 sixes. It was amazing actually. I was on the balcony. And those 2 sixes, from the whole ground believing that England had won the game, everyone suddenly went, hello. Pat Cummins has just sent a message to England that I'm coming after you. And then obviously the second new ball was taken, and to see no Jimmy Anderson, England's great is not taking that second new ball or not even get given a go.
Yeah.
I understand when you're in that situation. I had it in 05 where bowlers are going, they're fresh, they're continually running in hard, and Robinson and Broad. If you suddenly make the change when you're getting so close to the win or the loss, you're worried that a bowler could come on and bowl 2 or 3 loosens and they go into the stands and it's game over. So I kind of understood how he stood up to those two. But Jimmy Anderson not taking a second new ball, it's not happened too often in his career.
No, it hasn't. Cookie, do you look at that and wonder, okay, is there a change of hierarchy or a change of preference? Or he didn't have a great game, Anderson, to be honest. He didn't have his usual zip.
No, he didn't. But on that wicket, not many people did have that.
No.
The zip. But we have to be clear. Actually, we were calling for the new ball, but actually the new ball gave Australia the opportunity to score. And that's what they were discussing. When they didn't take it straight away, we were thinking, why are they not taking it? And they were worried what was about to happen. It freed up Australia. A really soft ball's hard to hit. I think what Varney's right. When you're in that moment, you've got two bowlers going. You can't. It's a big call to then get a fresh one in.
It is.
It is cool. Whether he should have started with Jimmy and then gone to Ollie Robinson, I don't know. It would have been a gut call, probably because they wanted to go short at line, and Ollie Robinson actually was pretty good at pinpointing the bouncer very accurately, and that is not Jimmy's game at all. But in hindsight, you think could have done something else because the result didn't happen. So that's what Ben Stokes has seen.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what Jimmy Anderson thinks of the fact that they didn't turn to him.
Yeah, I mean that would be an interesting conversation, and I'm sure. Ben Stokes, how open he seems to be with this group. Certainly towards the end, as you do. It's the first time in his captaincy you saw him asking. He had conferences. He's never had conferences before. He's been just asking one person there. But it's what you do, don't you? Like, you're desperate to get the right decision. Why wouldn't you use as many people as you can? Because it's such an important decision to make. But Ben Stokes seems to have this group of players being very open and very. Not scared to offer opinions and not scared to talk about things. I reckon Jimmy will ask why, and Ben will give him a reason. They'll discuss it and then they'll go on and carry on.
Would you ask Jason in that situation? You're the senior bowler out there and not used at absolutely at the knuckles edge, as it were.
Yeah, I think you would. There's no reason if you've got open, honest communication and open dialogue in your dressing room. And a captain who's very forthright like that, there's no reason why you wouldn't ask a question. And I think Alistair Cook was exactly right. I think it was they decided their plan was short ball. They were going to go the short bowling plan. But maybe it just wasn't the situation for James Anderson. As great as he is, as the legend that he is, maybe it just wasn't the situation for him at that particular time.
Yeah, interesting. Huge cheer there broke out, and it actually wasn't for an Englishman. It's for Pat Cummins, who's now giving his thoughts to Mike Atherton on the telly, and hopefully he'll be coming over to have a quick chat with us at some stage for our ABC listeners in particular. But Usman Khawaja clearly and fairly obviously was the man of the match for his contribution in both first and second innings. Although the second innings actually it must have focused a few minds of the Australian batsmen still to come, because he really got in a rut.
Yeah, he was going through the approach of, I want to be there at the end of this game. If I'm there at the end of the game, we win that. And he did really dig in and not play a shot in anger. If they hadn't got over the line, I think although he scored 60, you could ask, you would have asked, that wasn't the right way to go about it. It seemed to put a lot of pressure on the opposition, on the other batter at the other end.
Yeah, sure.
The TMS Podcast.
Watch highlights of every day of every test on iPlayer. How do you cope with Ellis and John?
We want to tell you about the brand new series of our podcast, How Do You Cope, available now on BBC Sounds.
Let's create spaces where young people feel confident to say, actually, I need help.
Each week we speak to guests about some of the challenges they've had to overcome throughout their lives, all answering the question, how do you cope?
You should let it seep out from every pore in your body and let it be physical and rageful so that it can leave.
They've been some of the most illuminating conversations I've ever had.
From BBC Radio 5 Live.
How do you cope with Ellis and John?
Listen on BBC Sounds.
The TMS Podcast.
Take the Ashes with you this summer. Hear every ball live on BBC Sounds.
What shall I say to Pat Cummins? Come on, Jason, if you're going to interview Pat Cummins after that, what are you going to expect from an Australian perspective?
I think the first question we would ask is, when you saw Joe Root come on and needed 51 to win, and he hit 2 sixes, was that a deliberate tactic to changed the momentum of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, I mean, you're going to ask obviously about the tactics on day one and all that, the obvious questions, but did they ever consider going for the draw?
Yes,
was there any messages when Carey got out, obviously Khawaja, Carey got out, or was he making decisions down there? What we looked at, that he was happy to lose that game to win it, because when Carey did get out, he was backing away and trying to carve through the offside. He had a couple of chances early on in his innings which just flew over gully and square leg. It's just interesting to see whether they ever discussed it in the change room.
Well, we shall find out all of that, because I've got a very pleased Australian captain marching my way. Hello, Pat. It's nice to see you again. Big smile on your face. Well, what a finish that was.
Yeah, amazing. All 5 days, just incredible Test cricket, really. It ebbed and flowed, and might need to take a little while to digest this one, but pretty smiley at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, 55 you put on with Nathan Lyon there. That's quite something. I mean, was there any point where you were thinking, actually, perhaps we're not going to get over the line, and then you hit those 2 sixes off Joe Root? I mean, was that a deliberate change of tempo, if you like? Did you ever think of just blocking it out?
Never thought of a draw, no. There was different periods where it felt really tough to get runs. I think when we were 70 away, it felt a long way away. But, a couple of boundaries and suddenly the field spreads and you can tick over a couple of singles. So, yeah, I can't really remember any of it, to be honest.
Actually, nor can any of us. It seems like it's gone on forever, this game. Can I take you back to the first day? If you go back that far, and the tactics, England batting, quite deep set fields from the go. Would you do that again, or would you actually put a bit more pressure on England next time around, do you think?
We'll see. I think we made a couple of key tweaks kind of to the second innings. I thought Joe Root in particular batted fantastically well on that first day. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, the wicket on day one was pretty flat, so he didn't have too many options, and I think in the end 390 odd. I think we had 5 for 170, so a couple of key moments that could have gone our way and it could have been different.
You've had your first taste, actually, of experiencing the way that England are trying to play. What do you make of it? Did it surprise you at all?
No, I wouldn't say surprised. Nothing too unexpected, but they're class players, and I think it's probably their strongest suit, the way they go about it. Ours is a little bit different, but it makes for pretty good viewing for the fans out there.
Yeah, and he got you over the line. And the last one, Usman Khawaja, what an effort that was.
Yeah, superstar. He spent almost every minute of the match out there on the field. Just stuck at it, just composure the whole 5 days. Holding the innings together, just absolute superstar.
How do you come down from this tonight? What are you going to do?
Don't know. We've got a bit of a break, don't we, till the next one. So, I think we might. I think Gazza might have us sitting around him telling us through his innings a few times tonight.
I'm afraid you might have to put up with that.
Yeah, I'll listen this one time. Yeah.
Thanks for talking to us, Pat.
Great,
congratulations. Well played. There we go. Pat Cummins, Australia's captain. Interesting, he said, I can't remember much about it either. I mean, you're in the moment and you can't really. But no, so there you go. You had your question answered. Dizzy, he never thought for a moment about not going for the win.
Right, fantastic. And what an attitude. And that's what we love. I was really interested in his answer, the question you asked, Daggers, about day one and his tactics about the fields. And I think he answered it quite well. They'll certainly be thinking about that. There's no doubt. His answer may have been a little bit cryptic, but they're thinking, they'll reflect and review. They'll look back at areas they could have just done a little bit differently out there. Could they have found a way to squeeze England batters a little bit more? So I expect there'll be slightly different, slight tweaks to that come Lords.
We shall see. Thank you very much. Dizzy, you can stand down. Thanks for actually being great company in this match.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you. Really enjoyed working with you again. Jason Gillespie, of course. Great Australian fast bowler. Cookie, I think you're probably done as well. Thank you very much indeed. We'll catch up with you. Andy Zaltzman, a last statistical thought from you?
Well, a game like this almost defies statistics, but there were some extraordinary numbers that came out of today's play and the match as a whole. It was Australia's biggest successful fourth innings chase since Pat Cummins' Test debut, when he made a crucial innings batting at number 10 as an 18-year-old to help Australia chase 310 against South Africa. It's their biggest successful chase in the Ashes since 1948, a famous game at Leeds when Australia got 404 on the final day, and their fourth biggest successful chase against England of all time. It's the 10th time England have lost after declaring, but the second in the last 3 games. It happened in the second test in New Zealand. And I mentioned earlier on, Australia struggled in close Ashes tests. They won at the MCG by 28 runs in 1950-51. This is their first win in a close Ashes game since then. Before that, you've got to go back to 1924-25. And the last time they won a close one chasing, as in by 3 wickets or fewer, was at the SCG in 1907-08. It's the fourth time in Ashes history that teams added 50 or more to win after losing their 8th wicket. 2 happened in that 07-08 series over 100 years ago. The other was Ben Stokes' Headingley masterpiece 4 years ago. Pat Cummins' 44 not out. Here's a stat that I liked, Haggers. Is the highest fourth innings score to win a test by someone batting at number 9 or lower in the entire history of Test cricket. An extraordinary performance. He's already carved himself into cricketing immortality, one of the finest players of his or any era, and runs in both innings. His batting form hadn't been great recently, but he's really performed when most needed. The last 2 days, incredible fluctuating cricket. There were no partnerships of less than 10 or more than 61. 19 players batted, only one failed to get to double figures, the leading Test batsman of his era, Steve Smith. Usman Khawaja, 518 balls in the Test, the fourth most by an Australian batter in a Test in England. And finally, England's sequence of bowling the opposition out 26 times in a row has come to an end, and that's the second longest such sequence since the 19th century.